Hey, good morning. Thank you for tuning in, folks. And many of you watched the Channel 4 documentary a couple of nights ago about Christian B. And you may have seen the absolutely harrowing and horrifying case of Hazel, who was featured in the documentary. And we've reached out, she's a mutual friend of John Clark, who we had on yesterday. And, graphic content warning, folks. I know it's early in the day. Christian B, I described him as an absolute monster. He didn't discriminate on the age of the people that he preyed on. And we saw the factory that he was operating out of with the filthy mattress and dozens of little girls swimming costumes, and just you can't imagine the darkness of this guy's mind. So we salute Hazel's bravery for coming on. This is the first time she's done a live interview. So, folks, please, if you've got questions, Hazel's going to tell a story. As the questions come in, I'll save them until the end when we get through everything that's happened. And all of Hazel's links, if you want to reach out, support her, links are in the description box, as are links for the crisis centres that support women who've gone through these heinous things. And Hazel also had a positive experience with Operation Grange. So we're going to get to that part of the story as well. But firstly, huge thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Shaun. Yeah, this is a new experience, a live podcast for me. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Great. And we like people just to go back in their lives to the very beginning and just set the table for, before this horrible stuff happened to you. So we will do that. But we also have a restriction on our YouTube channel whereby, because of the nature of these crimes, we have to make sure you are okay with us publishing this story and you waive any anonymity, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem at all. That was waived a long time ago,
Shaun. All right, so where did you grow up with that lovely accent?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Dublin City, so not just on the outskirts of the city centre. I'm one of 5 children. I'm the eldest of 5. So yeah, we had no different of an upbringing, I suppose, to anyone who grew up in the same area and era as I did. It was a very working class, normal, everyday folk kind of situation. Being the eldest of 5, I suppose I had that role to play growing up. And as corny as it sounds, I suppose my best friends were and still are my family. I come from quite a big family. Typically Irish, in the sense that my mum and dad's generation would have had a lot of brothers and sisters. So I've a lot of cousins, and obviously being one of 5, I have a few siblings as well. So we are a very tight-knit, and still are a very tight-knit family. So I grew up having very few friends actually outside of my own, family dynamics. So yeah, moving away for me when I grew up was a big deal, stepping outside that bubble of comfort was a big deal, and it was supported by my parents. They didn't want me going off now with a backpack, like the way so many do, to Australia or whatever, and on my own. So I initially went to Mallorca in Spain with an Irish travel company when I was 18. And I can still remember my mum crying in the airport and me going, but I had such a fantastic experience. I spent my 18th kind of birthday time somewhere in Mallorca. I made some fantastic friends. I made some amazing memories that obviously I still hold now. And so when the opportunity came around again for me to go to Portugal and with the same company, they were hugely behind me, because I was working for an Irish company. I was provided with accommodation. I had a guaranteed wage coming in every week. All the things that tick the boxes for mommy and daddy were done. And then I obviously got the chance to go away, spread my wings, and grow up a little bit, I suppose, outside of my family circle. The only difference with Portugal was you're buddied up, I suppose, with a workmate, and my workmate Shaun, his name is Shaun as well. He was a boy, or is a boy, is a male, so they didn't house us together. So I had to kind of navigate getting used to actually living alone, completely alone in my own. Now we were directly next door to each other, which you know, we developed a little code of knocking on the wall to each other to make he used to make sure I was okay and all, like, but you know, coming from a really busy household, busy family. My mom, I don't know how she's done. She's 5'1". She's the tiniest little thing, but she ruled the roost, like, you know. And we had a very busy kind of friends in out all the time. My brothers had football friends in and out. So my home life was very busy and noisy. So going to this small little apartment in Portugal by myself, yeah, it took me a long time to actually get used to the silence. That probably sounds very strange to some people, but you know, getting used to the rattle of the fridge, you know, the noise of this, the noise of that, things that you wouldn't necessarily hear all the time when you're in a real busy house. So yeah, moving away from me was something that I really wanted to do because that was my form of education, I suppose, in a sense. Like, I love people. I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to learn new languages. That was my kind of, I wanted to do so much that one course or one thing wouldn't have given it to me. So travel for me was how I done it, and my parents were happy for me to do it as long as they felt I was protected and minded, you know, when I was going. So yeah.
Could you just expand a little bit on your goals and your dreams and your ambitions at that age?
Um, I think, you know, I had lots of things that I wanted to do. I was really outgoing, and not cocky, but quite confident in myself. But I also, like, I mean, like everybody, I had these natural, you know, insecurities about myself. I wanted to sing. I loved to sing. I still do. And that was all I ever wanted to be when I grew up, was a singer. But I mean, you had to put yourself in check, and you know, singing your shoulda, woulda, couldas doesn't always pay the bills. And as soon as I got to, you know, an age where I realized, you know, this is, especially at the time when all these girl bands and boy bands were breaking into, you know, into the onto the music scene, that wasn't kind of my thing. And yeah, so I focused really on travel, but I wanted to work in the travel industry, not just traveling like as a holiday rep. That was kind of a something that killed two birds with one stone. But I had enrolled before I went to Portugal. I'd enrolled to do a course, like a college course in studying travel and tourism. So that had been the plan. Had things not gone the way they did, that was kind of the plan of what I wanted to do when I came back, was to actually study the trade and work in it, which never came about, unfortunately, after everything. But yeah, I just wanted to work with people, you know. I just wanted to and I suppose I had that freedom in a sense that I had huge support in my family. I was always encouraged to try whatever avenue it was I wanted to try, as long as it was safe and it was good, you know. Like, I was always given the motivation and the push to do that. I was never stunted in anything I said I wanted to try. I was, you know, if I said like that I want to go and travel, my mom and dad would look into ways that this could work for me. So I was very much encouraged in trying new things, and figuring it out, you know. I think at 18, 19, we're all very different people then to what we are now. I'm 41. Don't tell anyone. I'm 41, and you know, for all, yes, life has changed me, and you know, we can talk more about on that if you want. But you know, I think it's safe to say that most people are you know, have different wants and different needs and different kind of perspectives on life from 19 to 40. You know, like our needs and wants change. So I think that's it. You know, what I wanted to do then potentially would be very different to what I want to do now. Anyway, regardless of what has happened to me. But I had the opportunity, I suppose, in the support, maybe not financially or all that. We were very, you know, our very working class, normal family, but I was always pushed to kind of find the avenue that I wanted and given that encouragement. Like,
So how many countries did you travel to by that age? And how exciting was it to be in Portugal?
well, I had only really, like, I had been on holidays, you know, like with my friends and stuff before that, and I went to Mallorca in Spain, to actually live and work. and it was with the same company that I had went to Portugal with. But I'm going to be honest, I didn't pick Portugal. It was kind of, I suppose, a lottery. We had to do training course before you were given the place that you were going to go. So I remember at the time I really wanted Cyprus, and I don't know why. I think because Ayia Napa and that music scene was really big, and I wanted to have this experience of Ayia Napa and Cyprus and Greece, or somewhere kind of like that was really exotic at that time. Like, so when my name was pulled out of the hat for Portugal, I was like, really, like, you know, and then I looked into where I was actually going to be working and housed, and it was such a big complex, like thousands of guests. I was like, I am never going to have a moment in this place, because it's huge. Like there's 3 very big blocks as part of this one complex, and I mean, I don't quote me verbatim, but as far as I remember, in the Irish blocks anyway, there was potentially over 1,500 guests at one time, and they would, so it's like, I think it was 14 floors high in each block, like they're in the blocks 1 and 2. So a huge amount of guests, and a lot of tour companies bought rooms. They would hire or take on the contract for certain rooms, and it was predominantly Irish in the blocks 1 and 2, and more kind of where I lived across the road in block 3 was more Scandinavian, German, Dutch, that kind of tour companies would had them rooms. But yeah, Portugal for me was never somewhere that I chose. But when I got there, like, we had went to Spain first, and we were sent to Torremolinos in Spain for 2 weeks to help set up a kiddies club and stuff there. And then we had to make this, there was 4 of us. 2 girls were going to Albufeira, and myself and Shaun were going to Praia da Rocha. We had to make this bus journey from Torremolinos to Faro. And it's still to this day the worst bus journey I've ever been on in my life. I'll never forget it. It was horrendous. And we thought, like, oh, this is a real adventure, getting to see the whole place, the countryside and everything. And it was the smelliest, most stuffiest, horrible bus I was ever on. But we did it, and we got there, and we were picked up by this travel driver person. I don't know who he was, and he brought us to Club Praia da Rocha then, and it was in the nighttime, so I didn't get to really see anything around me. And where Club Praia da Rocha itself is situated is on like a dual carriageway, and it's very much in the resort, but it's at the back of it. So all I seen was this dual carriageway, a bridge, a no man's land. There was a lot of wasteland around it, and it was just, oh my God, where are they plonking me, And the rooms that we were given were like glorified garages. They were horrendous, and if I'm like, they were tourist rooms. These weren't like specific staff rooms; they were actually tourists' rooms. Bright green painted wooden furniture, horrible floral, kinds of cushions and curtains that match. Really, really dated. I will be fair and say spotlessly clean, but very, very dated. And you could the echo in it, because there was nothing in it. There was no personality in any of the rooms that, so for me, I was like, I'm after giving up the warmth and the busyness and the home life that I had to come and live in this shack. Like, I don't know. And my first night wasn't very, it wasn't very positive, I won't lie. But day 2 wasn't too bad, because we got to see it more in the sunshine, and we took a walk down to the beach, which is still probably one of the most fantastic stretches of the coastline I've seen. I think it's 9 kilometers long of a beach, and it's just stunning. So that kind of sold it to me then. I can take the compromise of living in a garage for the surroundings. And just to say, like, even now, after everything that has gone on for me, I absolutely love Portugal. I loved it. And I love the Portuguese people, and they have, as their way, their customs, their food, their culture. I am hugely respectful of that, and I actually really love it and miss it at times as well. Still, all these years later, like, they really hold a very special place in my heart. I don't hold any, you know, bad feelings towards actual, you know, Portugal or the people there. Their police force, that's a bit of a different story altogether. But
Well,
as
right,
people,
we'll get to that.
yeah,
What were your day-to-day responsibilities in that job?
yeah, people think that you go on work as a holiday rep and, you know, you're living the life of Riley, and it's completely the opposite. You work extremely long hours. So for us, we had the run of the kiddies club firstly. So the kiddies club would open from 9:30, I think it was, till around 1 o'clock. So we'd be there from 9. So you do from 9 to 1, and then you'd break for like siesta time till 3, and then we do kind of paperwork or welcome meetings, you know, that kind of stuff, delivering leaflets around to all the rooms via the stairs, mind you. So you'd be putting like little welcome packs under each door of each room for the guests. And then we'd have kiddies club again in the afternoon. And then from the evening time, we do the likes of mini discos, you know, any of the shows that the hotel put on, we would be part of them. And then also we'd have to take do the guest runs to and from the airport. So some of them kind of the bus would leave Club Pride Wash at 4 o'clock in the morning. And you'd go, you'd drop people off, you'd wait for a flight to land, you'd bring people back, and it would be bright again, they'd be coming in, and then you might catch a couple of hours sleep, and then you're back into work. So it was very much like really, really busy. You had Sunday off, but we used to do transfers on a Saturday night. So really you had 12 hours off, you know, you didn't have like a full day. And normally that was spent trying to catch up on the few hours that sleep. Because, you know, for all, look, there are Club 1830 reps and all these things. I don't know how they do it. Party from one end of the week to the next. That certainly wasn't my experience of being a holiday rep in the two kind of seasons that I did it. One in Spain and one in Portugal. That definitely wasn't it for me. If I could stomach 2 drinks at the end of you know, a night out with my friends, if I could afford 2 drinks because we got paid the most minimal wage at the time. We earned €120 a week. So I mean, you had to feed yourself, you had to live off that, you know, wash your clothes. We'd no washing machine, you know, so you had to pay to go to a laundrette to wash and dry your clothes. So I figured out that drying them was too expensive. So I bought a washing line and installed it inside my apartment so I could save on the drying money. You know, like we weren't living the life of Riley financially or any other way. Like we were working hard to have a few hours, if we got them each day, of living in this, you know, really beautiful place, which was, you know, a fantastic payoff until it wasn't, you know, for me. But yeah, I loved it.
Viewers, if you've just joined us, I'm here with Hazel. If you watched the Channel 4 documentary about Christian B, her story was featured in it. And something just struck me then, because it was horrifying. So the fact that, you know, you were back in your room and you just heard a voice call out your name. And you said that you were working with the kids and stuff. Do you think perhaps he was watching the kids, and that may be how he came across who you were, to actually know who you were?
Look, this is all, you know, me kind of, I've spent obviously many years trying to figure out how and why me, like what brought this person into my world. And we can all, you know, come up with these ideas. Kiddies Club is certainly one of them that now in the last few years that has certainly stuck out for me for different reasons to what I had done before. I never would have put the connection together that the person who would carry out crimes like this against like an adult, for all I was a young adult, I was still an adult female. I wasn't a young child at all, you know. So I never would have put 2 and 2 together that somebody would have that if somebody's preference was children. I just it just never entered my head. My reason that, you know, for many years of thinking the kiddies club and putting that together was we took the kids out on little trips and walks around the resort to the beach to collect crabs and, you know, all that, and shells and all that kind of stuff. So we wore bright yellow T-shirts. The kids all had bright yellow T-shirts with bright yellow hats. Everybody knew our name. The kids would be calling our name. And I just thought that maybe that advertised me, unbeknownst to myself, around, to him, to this person. Obviously, in later years, I've kind of, maybe no different to what I'm sure you were thinking at the minute, thought that the kiddies club and obviously what appears to be his preference or choice at times may have drawn him to me. But also my room and my apartment had been broken into a couple of weeks previous to what had happened, and I'd been saving up. It was difficult with the money I got, but my mum and my brothers and sister were coming out for my 21st birthday, and I'd been putting an extra few bob in a shoebox under my bed. Now, I know everyone at home will probably, and excuse me French, but have a shit drawer. This drawer that just has everything in it that that you need to keep, but you don't have a place for. Well, these apartments are so minimally furnished that I didn't have a drawer. So I created a shit drawer under my bed. So I had a shoebox with the likes of, scissors, eyebrow tweezers, my belts, earrings, all that kind of stuff, my passport. And I was saving my few bob, whatever extra I could, under there. And a couple of weeks before what happened, that had been robbed. The money had been robbed. And there's, a notion in me, like a thought in me. I don't know how. Again, I don't know if I'm right in this, but he has been known to kind of break into tourist apartments. My apartment would have looked no different to any other apartment in the block. And the balcony door was broken. It was ground floor. There was a step up onto it, into the, it was a very easy one to get into for somebody who done that for a living. And I would imagine that, upon getting in there and getting a few bob out of it, he realized that I lived there and I was alone. And maybe gave him the idea that he could come back. I don't know. Is the truth. I can't tell you that that's a definite, but it's certainly something that I've thought of. Because it was the only night I walked home alone. So I don't know. I can have all of these ideas of how he knew I walked home alone. There was wasteland right next to where I lived. My balcony door faced out onto it. There was loads of camper vans and high ace vans for the people who sold their wares on the hill, on the stalls. They all lived in there. Could he have been in there as well and seen me come home alone? Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. So
Hazel, could you take us through your day before that happened?
Yeah, it was no different to any other day, really. I worked for the day, and that night I done the mini disco and kind of children and family entertainment kind of thing in the hotel. I left the hotel after work, and I literally went around the corner. It's actually the pub that I went into was almost in the car park of the hotel, if that makes sense. It was so close. Like, I didn't go walking far alone. Not that that makes any difference, but I didn't. And I had been kind of I've been seeing this boy, or this man, I suppose, a boyfriend, and he played music in there. So that's what I did. I went around. I went around there. I seen a few friends. I seen him and himself and the owner of the pub kind of were having words with each other. They weren't getting on. There was, to be honest, it was all a load of crap. To be fair, it was all just stupidness of over not enough customers in the bar, and all these things. So I ended up sat outside the pub, which again wasn't unusual. There was seating outside, but myself, the owner's wife, and one of the girls who worked there sat on the steps outside, and we were chatting away. And I was giving out about him, I think, at the time. And oh, sure, look, as you do at 20, like, and I remember going over to him and saying, like, give it up. Can we just end this, end this argument or whatever? And he told me to F off. And I said, right, so I will, and I walked back to the apartment. by myself. Again, not that it makes any odds if I walked miles alone, but I didn't. I walked, as I said, the bar that I was in was more or less in the car park of the hotel. It was in the car park on the opposite side of the dual carriageway to where I lived. So there's block 1 and 2 on one side. That pub was there, we'll say, and then you cross a small footbridge into block 3, which is where I lived. So I literally walked across the footbridge, and once you came off the footbridge, you were into the reception area of the hotel part of where I lived. I walked through the hotel corridor, you know, down to my room. I lay on the bed, fully clothed, kind of upset that, you know, at 20, the boyfriend had told me to F off. I was probably playing Snake on my phone or something. I can't, you know, and I obviously dozed off because I did. And my comfort position, I suppose, for sleeping was always on my stomach. So I obviously, you know, in my sleep made my way into that spot, and I was woke up by somebody calling my name. And in them, like, you're talking milliseconds. Like, this is not the sound. When I say this, it kind of obviously sounds longer than what it was. And I thought my boyfriend had come over to say he was sorry, to apologize. But in the, you know, in the second, like, it's in this, like, such a quick realization, because you're half asleep, like, do you know, and I still hadn't opened my eyes, or even, you know, kind of came to fully at this stage. But I knew he had no key. I knew he couldn't get in. So I was like, it couldn't be him. And even now, even saying it, like, I get sweaty hands. It's the most horrendous feeling of fear that I don't know if I could truly do it justice in words. Like, and unfortunately, I'm sure there are other people out there that know that feeling. I wish they didn't, but it is the most paralyzing feeling of fear that is equally painful. It's like everything rushes to your feet. Everything becomes heavy because you're just literally frozen in fear. And this is all before I opened my eyes because I knew that there was something wrong. You know, I knew instantly. So obviously I was lying on my stomach, and I turned my head to see who this was, and I was kind of met with this very tall figure of somebody all dressed in black, and he was holding a knife. So instantly, you know, you think, for me anyway, you think you'd kick, you'd scream, you'd do all these. I couldn't. I was just completely paralyzed with fear. And in them seconds, again, like, this is not minutes, this is seconds, like, you're trying to make this decision very, very quickly. Am I going to win if I fight back? You know, there's this part of your brain that I've since learned about, that it goes back to, you know, these primitive times in human history, where you can kind of tell whether or not you have a shot at this. And somewhere in me knew that I didn't have a fight against this. So the best thing for me to do to protect myself, to survive, was to do nothing. Do you know? And even if I wanted to fight back and scream and do all these things, I physically couldn't do it, because my brain was obviously saying, don't do it, because I couldn't. And look, I could have, I know I did trash around at one stage, and I lost my fingernails in the process. But that was kind of a more grasping at the bed than even at him. Maybe I don't really remember that part of it too well, because that fear just takes over, like, you know.
Hazel, when you were waking up, like you said, your eyes were closed still. Was there a split second where perhaps you thought you were in a dream and it wasn't real?
I think my first memory really is, I thought it was my boyfriend coming over to apologize, obviously, because he told me to F off, and, you know, I thought, but no, like, there was, there was just that the minute the realization hit me in my head that it couldn't be him, it couldn't be my boyfriend, that instantly I knew that there was something wrong. And I can't explain why. I don't know the psychology surrounding that or the reason myself why, but I think in the back of my mind, I knew none of my friends would ever do that to me. Sneak into my room in the middle of the night. I know they wouldn't, because they knew how nervy I was of living alone, how much it had taken for me to overcome the silence and, the actual just being by myself in a place which had never been something I had ever had to do. In all my 20 years up to that point, I was always in a house or you live somewhere with loads of people, like with my family. So yeah, I just think I instantly went from, this can't be my boyfriend, I'm in trouble. That's that. There was nothing else in between. And yeah,